I grew up being very poor, extremely poor. My mom cleaned houses. We lived in a little single apartment, 5 people, sometimes more, and in the most debilitating of circumstances. I could only feed him just the minimum. Carl's Jr. back then had Famous Stars. They had a hamburger for $1.99, and usually that's what I would be able to give him almost daily. And that was just for him. It didn't mean that I was eating, because there wasn't. There just wasn't enough. Eventually, I remember I had this one goal. So I wanted to be a police officer. That was my goal. I had wanted that since I was a kid.
And during that time, my mom was succeeding in her career. She gave me a lot more than I didn't have in my childhood, but none of that was making me happy, because inside I started to change. Inside I started to become depressed. Inside I was to a point where I suffered a sexual trauma. When this sexual trauma happened that I went through, she wasn't there to protect me. So that made my whole childhood change. I was confused. I started to have all these homosexual thoughts, and then I would act on those homosexual thoughts, and I started doing drugs at a very young age. I attempted suicide, and I couldn't tell my mom. I just couldn't tell her anything that was going on, because in my head she wouldn't understand.
And it actually he got worse. He got worse to the point where I was at my wit's end, that I had to have him arrested.
Being a son and having your own mother send you to jail is one of the hardest things and the best things that has ever happened to me, because that's when I found God. In jail, that's where I found God. When I was in jail, I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't call my mom. I remember specifically the court date that I was sent to jail. My mom was there. She was sitting in the courtroom, and that was the last time my mom saw me for about a week and a half. And I was alone, and I did not know what to do. And I was angry. I was angry with my mom. I was angry with God, angry with myself. And when I was in jail, one of the inmates actually gave me a Bible. For some reason, the inmate gave me a Bible, and he said, read it. And he didn't know me, and I didn't know him, but he gave me the Bible. And I had it, and I took it to my cell. And when I was alone in my cell, that's when I had my moment. That's when I put my head in the toilet, and I asked God, can you please transform me? Because what comes out of me, that's what's my life. And so I asked God, if my life is this, then take it away. But I put my head in this toilet because that's how I feel inside. So moments later, after I finished my prayer and I got up and just sitting down and just listening, the doors opened. The doors opened about 20 minutes later, and I was released. I was released from jail. There was no explanation. And I called my mom, and she didn't say a word. She said, I'll come pick you up. And I remember the first thing that I did when I left jail was go to church. I ran to church. First step, I went to church, and I hugged the pastor. And from that day on, I made a vow with myself, God, use me as much as you can, because you saved me. I knew about the Holy Spirit because of what the pastor would say. My mom would talk about it, but I really didn't know what it was. And when the pastor would talk about it, Holy Spirit is Jesus Christ within you, having peace, having certainty, having love, having a new person. So I wanted that. I wanted to be a new person. I wanted to be a new Daniel. I wanted so much what the pastor was saying, and I didn't really believe it, and I wanted it. And I thought to myself, how can I be a new person? So I started to look for that. I started to want to get that. I started to do purposes, things that were crazy, radical in faith, not sleeping, searching, doing everything possible to have this peace, have this love, and specifically it was love. And that's what I wanted the most. I wanted this love that I never felt before. I had this love with my mom, but I never felt real love. And I wanted it. I desperately wanted it so much more than my mom. And funny that I was actually baptized before my mom with the Holy Spirit.
Probably the best news he could ever give me was I was baptized with the Holy Spirit. I was that to this day, it's so wonderful. I could feel it, and he was a different person, and he did have that love, and he had that peace. And boy, I wanted that peace too, and I wanted to share in that. And eventually, later, I too was baptized. There's nothing I know that I can resolve by myself. Things happen outside of campaign of Israel. I just go to the altar. As a child, when my mom cleaned houses, I would all the summers go and help her. And I remember, going to clean homes. We used to go into the convenience store and whatever she can afford to buy. I remember we used to, if we had 5-10 minutes, we used to sit outside on the curb of this convenience store, and we would just dream, and we would look at all the homes. And so now I live in that area. I understand mothers. I encounter moms all the time who are in the same predicament. I know what it's like. I know that other side. I didn't just sit as a police officer on one side of the courtroom. I got to sit on the other side of the courtroom. I remember when they took him, when he was sent off to jail. I stayed there for such a long time. I couldn't move. And if other moms are going to hear this, I want them to know that there's a solution. There is, and for me, that was God.